not historically accurate, but emotionally and symbolically amplified. Roland Barthes' notion of myth as a cultural signifying system illuminates how fairy tale motifs, enchanted forests, and transformative love, family power, acquire new ideological meanings when recontextualized in digital form. His work allows the analysis to treat these elements not merely as narrative features, but as cultural encoded symbols undergoing reinterpretation. Henry Jenkins' theory of participatory culture and transmedia narrative demonstrate how audiences contribute to the ongoing evolution of myth by extending, remixing, and contesting filmic narratives across online platforms. This is essential for understanding neo-fairy tales not only as cinematic text, but as nodes in wider network of digital cultural productions. Finally, Bernard Steiner's concept of techniques and memory offers a philosophical account of how technology externalizes and transforms human memory practices. His work supports the argument that digital cinema acts as a prosthetic extension of cultural memory, mediating the transmission and renewal of storytelling traditions in ways analogous to yet distinct from oral performances. Extending his conceptual foundation, these theoretical perspectives create a rich interpretive framework through which neo-fairy tale films can be understood as hybrid cultural artifacts. They operate at the junction of myth and media, where postmodern aesthetics, cultural memory practices, and digital technologies converge to reshape the meanings and function of traditional tales for contemporary audiences. The movement from oral narrative forms to digital myth-making illustrates a continuous lineage of storytelling practices that evolve yet retain their core functions of circulation, adaptation, and cultural preservation. The parallels between oral and digital storytelling emerge most clearly in the way both forms rely on reinvention as the mode of preservation, just as oral tales endured through retellings, contemporary fairy tales adaptations thrive through technological reinterpretation. CGI, motion capture, and digital composting act as new modes for narrative renewal, updating the symbolic vocabulary of myth for visually oriented, technologically immersed audiences. These digital technologies do not simply embellish the narrative, they function as mnemonic devices, encoding cultural memory into immersive aesthetic forms that audiences can revisit certainly across platforms. So I would like to conclude that social media ecosystem intensify this process by functioning as collective memory spaces in which users collaboratively negotiate meaning, identity, and value through ongoing representation in these digital arenas. Iconic scenes, characters, and ideologies are continually reframed in response to contemporary cultural debates, allowing fairy tales to evolve in real time. Thus, the digital sphere acts not merely as a repository, but as an active myth-making environment, sustaining fairy tale narratives as living, mutable archives shaped by both creator and audience in a shared cultural dialogue. The shift from oral narration to digital myth-making offers a productive lens uh, for rethinking how indigenous knowledge systems survive and adapt in technologically mediated environments. When read through postmodern media logic, marked by plurality, fluid authorship, and the collapse of fixed interpretive authority, neo-Puritan film suggests that traditional um, epistemologies need not be confined to static preservation. Instead, they can be reactivated through forms of digital performances that echo the openness, variability, and communal reception of oral storytelling. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Aditi. Uh, any questions from the audience, please? You're free to question. All right. Aditi, for example, you talked about the myth, the digital myth. All right. So, this is inevitable in this technological age. We will be subjected to the digital myth, or maybe you may say the digitization of myth. We can also see it in other perspectives as well. So, do you consider that this digitization of the myth or a digital myth will be a boon or a bane to the oral traditions and the preservation of it?
Well, actually, it is a boon because it is inevitable, I would say. Because we are in a technological age, it is inevitable. We cannot just surpass it. So, if we use it wisely and if we follow the boundaries, like if we do the right practices, encourage only those content which are relevant, which are not manipulated, then it is a boon. But if we go on and break those like limitations, like boundaries, which are keeping us on the right path,
Yes,
then
yes, that is why I asked this question. I raised the same question in another manner to one of the participants earlier. That since we are not having any control over the digital technology, or maybe you may say that we are lacking much control over the social media, and you must be watching and you must be observant that various myths are being circulated as if they were truths. Number one question. Number two question, various truths are being circulated as if it is a myth and it never happened. So this is a challenge in this digital age. We have become enormous consumers of the digital content available, and therefore, obviously, your paper would certainly help people to understand that we need to preserve these oral traditions and take forward the digital transformation what the world over is going through in a positive manner. Thank you.
yes.
The next person is Research Scholar, School of Humanities and Physical Education, Department of English, City University, Ludhiana, Punjab, India. We don't have the name for this. I think those who have put it have forgot to put the name, but I will say the name, the topic of the paper. It is Community-Based Experimental Learning for Sustainability, a study of indigenous knowledge environmental practices in Jammu and Kashmir. So whosoever's paper is it, please come ahead. I will repeat the title of the paper. The title of the paper is Community-Based Experiential. I think it's written here, right? Experiential. Yes, Community-Based Experiential Learning for Sustainability. Whosoever's paper is it, please come ahead. Alright. This was paper number 7. So at any point of time, if anybody comes up, please raise your hand or please call up, and we shall allow you. Now we shall come to the next paper, Kautilya's Arthashastra and the Indian School of Economics. Kautilya's Arthashastra and the Indian School of Economics. The researcher is Manish Kumar, research scholar, Department of Humanities and Social Science. Yeah, please, good afternoon. Please unmute yourself because we are not able to listen to you. We can see you. Yes, your video is working.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, respected women, sir.
Yes.
And Sukma ma'am.
We have.
Dressing the dais.
Yes, you will be having
And,
5 to 7 minutes. All right. You will be having 5 to 7 minutes to put your paper.
Okay, sir.
Tell us the crux of the paper, the main motive behind it, and what all the things, what all findings you have come through. And
Okay,
then.
sir. Let me share my PPT.
All right.
Is it visible, sir?
Yes, it's visible. It's visible.
Okay, sir.
I think you need to readjust your screen, right?
Okay, sir.
Because it is coming at the left hand border of my screen. So
Okay, sir.
I cannot suggest. Yes, no. Now it has gone to the left border of the whole screen.
Okay, sir. Actually, sir, I am sharing this with my mobile.
Don't worry.
Please bear with me.
Go ahead. Don't worry.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Mainstream economics began its course in 1776 Common Era when Adam Smith's an inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations surfaced in public domain. Smith builds economics on the assumption of an economic man who single-mindedly pursues self-interest in an apolitical economy where the state practices laissez-faire policy, keeping itself confined to basic minimum functions of defense, law and order, justice, and of course taxation for funding those activities. In stark contrast, Indian economics begins its course much earlier, in around 300-350 BCE, and on a much more sensible, realistic, and pragmatic note, rooted in a deep understanding of human side and of the impossibility of separating economics from politics. The Indian School of Economics has evolved on the fine foundation of Kautilya's Arthashastra, and it displays a sort of intellectual continuity from ancient to modern is, for instance, Kautilya's conception of welfare state echoes in Amartya Sen's view of a state as a crucial agent for expanding human capabilities. It is against this backdrop that this paper seeks to study the evolution of the Indian School of Economics from Kautilya to Gandhi, Ambedkar, Murlia, to Amartya Sen and Abhijit Banerjee, to discover the elements of both continuity and change and to understand their implications for both theory and policy. Now, about Kautilya's Arthashastra. It is actually not a book of economics, but of statecraft, a book of politics and public administration. However, it contains valuable insights on economic role of the state. Now, Kautilya talks in terms of a monarchical setup, but his monarchy is a benevolent one. The ideal that he puts before the ruler is that of a welfare state, which interestingly is a 20th century phenomenon. The text of Arthashastra asserts that in the happiness of the subjects lies the happiness of the king, and in what is beneficial to them lies his own benefit. The ruler is expected to ensure basic economic security for the people, to protect them from hardships associated with old age, sickness, accidents, unemployment, natural calamities, and so on. The model of economy that Kautilya's Arthashastra prescribes is that of a mixed economy where natural resources, mining and important industries were state-owned, while agriculture, commerce and other activities were regulated by the state. Infrastructure development was the responsibility of the state, and state servants were to be remunerated on a liberal scale. Roots of pension scheme can also be found in Arthashastra. There is a reference in Arthashastra that says when a state servant dies in a state service, his family becomes entitled to his wage and food ration. Now, Indian economic thought shows a long internally contested tradition that moves from Kautilya's welfare state through Gandhi Ambedkar Lohiya's disputes over socialism to Sheikh and Banerjee's globally influential, yet India-rooted work on welfare, capability, and poverty alleviation. Across its trajectory, there is continuity in concern for ethics, justice, redistribution, and public action. But there is also a deep change in method, normative focus, and institutional strategy with major implications for both theory and practice. Kautilya's advocacy of a mixed but strongly state-directed economy finds resonance in independent India's mixed economy model shaped by Nehru and Mahalanobis. Kautilya's emphasis on welfare obligation of the state finds reinterpretation as social justice by Ambedkar and Lohiya or capabilities by Amartya Sen, while Gandhian concept of trusteeship assigns the role of redistribution to the capitalists. Gandhi views economic policy as inseparable from ethics and public welfare, but rejects strong centralized statism. Now, Ambedkar brings formal economics and law into Indian thought, treating caste as a central economic institution that blocks both efficiency and justice. Ambedkar's proposals like land reforms and even land nationalization, public control over key resources, labor rights, and a constitutional framework for social democracy expand the Kautilyan idea of welfare into a right-based anti-oppression agenda. Lohiya rejects both orthodox Soviet-style centralization and purely Gandhian voluntarism. His continuity with Ambedkar lies in the insistence that economic planning must directly confront caste and other hierarchies, and with Gandhi in valuing centralization and Swadeshi. Amartya Sen reconstructs welfare economics and development theory by shifting focus from income and utility to capabilities, what people are actually able to do and to be. His work on famines shows that starvation arises from failures of entitlements and public action, and not just food availability. He argues for democracy, transparency, and social expenditure as core to development. Arjit pioneers experimental developmental economics. He suggests randomized controlled trials to evaluate the effectiveness of particular government measures and at reducing poverty. Now, coming to the implications. For theory, the implications are that first, Indian economics drifts away from a purely market-centered or growth-centered framework towards a normative political economy that treats welfare, justice, and capabilities as central objects of analysis, not mere add-ons to efficiency. This is visible in sense, capabilities, approach, Banerjee's focus on the poor, and in earlier welfare and justice concerns of Kautilya, Gandhi, Ambedkar, and Hume. Secondly, it emphasizes integration of social structure with models of growth. Now, what are the implications for practice? The Indian School of Economics advocates a proactive state intervention in the form of welfare schemes, reservations, Panchayati Raj, employment guarantee, public health and education, which are now increasingly designed and evaluated with modern statistical tools. And it also insists that policy should be both ethically defensible, as emphasized by Gandhi, Ambedkar, Lohia, and Seth, and empirically effective, as Sen's famine work and Banerjee's experiments suggest. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Manishi. So the last statement was very effectively defensive, and empirically, what was that? Empirically effective, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So I have a very general and very day-to-day question to you that
Yes, sir.
we have been, you see the money has, rupee has gone to cross 90
Yes, sir.
3 days back. And sometimes you see that there are certain policies which need to be, which have been designed or maybe are in such a manner that some of the people are not very much happy or agreeing with it. Now, can you say something about the Kautilya's Arthashastra, and from that Arthashastra, anything we can use in terms of polity and probably in terms of economics too, present day? What are things, or what one or two things you can tell that we can follow that and get into a better situation?
Sir, what Kautilya has said is reflected in Mahatma Gandhi's Jantar, that the test of a public policy is that to what extent it meets the needs of the last person in the society. So, if we do that, then there can be no problem. We may frame efficient policies which can ensure social justice and growth as well. Okay, in concrete terms, what we should do nowadays, we find that there is a growth of crony capitalism. Capitalism per se is not bad. It ensures efficiency by promoting competition among so many small producers. If we want to restructure our economy, then we must encourage small scale enterprises to the extent possible, because that can only ensure that the gains of development are widely shared.
Thank you. I got that. That is still there in Gandhi's Hind Swaraj. In
Yes,
Hind
sir.
Swaraj, in one of the chapters, they discuss the same thing. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you. Now the next one is Miss Rijul Singh. Miss Rijul Singh. The paper is Reimagining Indigenous Futures. Is Miss Rijul?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes,
ma'am.
I'll just
Please
be
go ahead.
sharing.
Yes, please.
So is my PPT visible?
Yes. It's fantastic. Very colorful. Go ahead.
Yes, Okay, so good evening everyone, a very warm good evening from Kashi. I will be presenting my paper on reimagining indigenous futures, youth, social media and the vernacular revival in Himachal Pradesh. And my chief focus will be on the recent viral festival from Kinnaur called Raulena. Raulena is the 5,000-year-old Himachal festival that even history can't really explain. This festival blends mountain folklore, community rituals, and ancient Himalayan beliefs into a living tradition that survives without written history, carrying a cultural memory older than the civilization. The Raulena festival is an ancient winter ritual from Kinnaur. Basically, this festival is supposed to celebrate the fairies as is believed by the people of Kinnaur. Every year, just before the spring, villagers gather to bid farewell to the Saumi spirits, the protective mountain fairies believed to watch over them during the harsh winters. But these fairies not just protects the people from the harsh winters, it is also believed amongst the people of Kinnaur that if a
Please
certain
on your video. Switch on, switch on.
Okay, just 1 second. Yeah, am I visible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it is also believed that these fairies not only just protects the people of Kinnaur, uh, it also is believed that a person or a child should not dress up more in a more beautiful manner than the fairies themselves, or they should not sing in a very beautiful manner, as it is believed that the Sauni spirits will take their soul away. And the locals of Kinnaur village have even vouched for that it has happened to their friends and their relatives. So in this particular festival, there are two people. These two people are male only, but they are dressed up as masked bride, Raulena, and the groom as Raula. The reason that the faces are covered is also because, as I mentioned earlier, that they should not look much prettier than the fairies, the Siamese, otherwise they will take their soul. So their faces are covered in that way as well. And other than that, their entire bodies are covered, no skin or face is visible. This matters because during the ritual, they stop being ordinary human beings and become symbolic figures. They are not just earthly beings now. And this is not a marriage that happens in earth. It's not an earthly affair, it becomes a spiritual affair here. So, the anthropologist Victor Turrell calls such figures liminal beings. They exist in an in between zone, no longer human but not fully divine either. The dancers move around the Nagin Narayan temple, performing a ritual farewell to the fairies. The costumes, bright woolen clothes, as is my presentation today, is like, and they also have the silver ornaments, floral headgear. It represents fertility, renewal, and the connection between the people and their mountain environment. An important point to note here is that although the bride and the groom is played by the men of the community, but the headgear, the clothes, the ornaments, and the storytelling and spreading of the ritual and the festival stories amongst the community is done by the women. So women, although being on the backhand of it, they play a very important role in this festival. So the festival is not just a dance or a spectacle, as it has been represented in different platforms online, but it is a cultural system that combines ecology, spirituality, memory, and identity. Now moving forward, in the last few years, Raulena become popular online, or especially let's just talk about this year, because young photographers and locals began posting images and videos on other different online platforms. And a few amongst those were Avinash Kumar, and there is a YouTuber who has a channel and it is called Chai and Chronicles with the Pahadis. He is from Kinnaur, which is a very important piece of information, and he has told in detail about this particular festival. The theorist Henry Jenkins called this spreadable media. Spreadable media is basically the content that spreads naturally because people want to share it. But the viral content can also distort meaning. It can be just a colorful event for people. So it is also important that it also happens that sometimes the outsiders they treat Raulena as a strange or exotic festival. This is exactly what Gayatri's Spivak warns us about. When marginalized communities get represented by others, their voices can be misunderstood or silenced. However, the positive side is that local youth are taking control of the narrative. They now explain the festival online, add captions, correct false interpretations, so digital media becomes a tool of cultural agency rather than the exploitation. Other than that, there are also across Himachal, the youth have also been documenting the rituals like the Dham feast. Dham is like it is a local cuisine, and every district has its own a set of dishes for the Dham. And the local folk dance that is called Nati dance, and the folk music as well. So every district has its own dialect. So the folk music also varies, and the various culinary traditions. For this, there is an influencer who has also been working on spreading the uh, tradition online and the culture online, and his name is Karan Thakur. Across the various platforms, YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp, there have been songs, dialects, crafts into digital vernacular archives. Uh, the studies show how dialects like Kangri, Mandyali, Kinnauri thrive online despite the dominance of Hindi and English. And in the recent trends, also have been few stand-up comedians that have come with the Pahadi dialects. They have been showcasing the Mandyali dialect, which is a very important thing because it hasn't been happening in the past. So the digital practices also expand pride, linguistic identity, and community visibility. This revival is organic and decentralized, led not by institutions but by youth documenting their words. So, coming to the women of Himachal Pradesh, of course, they have been playing a very important part, as I said earlier, from preparing the dresses to the ornaments. They have been long custodians of Pahadi oral traditions, lullabies, harvest songs, festival songs. Even if you talk about the Raulena festival, so before the dance practices they begin, there are women who actually invoke the local Devi and Devtas by singing the songs, and after that only this particular festival begins. And this festival not just happens in one single part of Kinnaur. There are upper hills and there are lower hills. So there are 4 to 5 places where this particular festival it happens. And initially this festival it was meant for a very small gathering, but in the recent years, people of Kinnaur, they have come together and brought the festival to what we are seeing in today's times. And the women have played a very important role in that. The digital platforms allow these intimate intergenerational memories to become public testimonies. The folk songs encode gendered labor, hardship, survival, and solidarity in mountain life. Through an intersectional feminist lens, as Kimberly Crenshaw has said, that these songs reveal layered experiences of rural, tribal, and gendered marginalization. Online circulation here also becomes a quiet act of resistance, challenging homogenized media tropes about Indian women. Also, I would like to talk about the feminist and digital humanities frameworks. Chandra, Talpaya, Mohanty, and Spivak warns against the romanticizing or homogenizing third world women. They warn against that we should not generalize all the women, like their experiences are not unique to their cultural identities or their geographical areas. It reminds us not to generalize all third world women as one group. Their experiences are different, specific, and local. As I mentioned, different, specific, and local. So in Himachal Pradesh, if we move from one district to the other, so the rituals, the songs, the food, everything changes. And the person from Mandi district would not be able to understand or say the dialect of Kinnaur. So that is how it really works, and that is what they have said. So instead of speaking for Himachali women or Kinnauri women here, we must listen to their self-representations online. That is what is important for people from the communities. That is how we are going to save the traditions here. So the digital tools gives indigenous women communities the ability to curate their own narratives, aligning with Linda Smith's call for decolonized knowledge production. It says that indigenous communities should control how their culture is recorded. And Himachal actually youth doing digital documentation is a perfect example of this. And the recent trends post-COVID, it has been happening, and this is how the Rolena festival has also come into the light. The role of women, as I mentioned earlier, and I would like to mention again, is deeply embedded in its cultural, ritual, symbolic structure. Women prepare the household rituals, offerings, sacred spaces that enable the performance to take place. And these are the women that tells the youngsters, the kids of Kinnaur districts about the festival, so that these practices, they don't just fade away in the air, and later on even the Himachal youth will just see it online and read about it. They should rather experience it.
Please sum up. Please sum
Yes,
up.
yes,
your
okay,
point.
okay, ma'am. So I would just like to say that there are ethical challenges in the digital sphere as well, like the algorithmic bias, the cultural appropriation, representation, and consent. And in the last, I would like to say that what does all this mean to the future? That like technology is not so bad. It actually are not our enemies. If we work together, then we can create a difference. As the UN Special Rapporteur on Cultural Rights says, inclusive culture production is both a right and a resource. And if we do it right, then Himachal's indigenous future looks strong, self-determined, and full of possibilities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rijal. Thank you. The paper was very insightful. Any questions from the participants here? You're free to ask. Thank you. So, Rijal, I have something, I want to know something, your views upon the fact that, see, you have already discussed in your paper, but still, let's have a question. Like, you must be observing that people are, because of the advent of the social media, now when
Yes.
I suppose I am a person who might visit there, and then I report or make a video or put it, present it in my own understanding, without understanding the sensibilities of the people over there, without understanding the culture behind it, or maybe a superficial understanding. Now, sometimes that distorts. This is what you talked in the, probably in the third slide, probably, or maybe second slide. So this challenge is there, right? Now,
Yes, sir.
the impact, suppose I am a big social media person, I have huge fan following, and the damage I bring to that particular understanding of that particular culture, particular people, particular festival. Maybe some other person is doing the same thing and putting it rightly, but he or she does not have a big fan following. Now, technology on one hand, or social media exposure on one hand is a boon, but again, such challenges come up. So,
Yes, sir.
those parts of India, or maybe those parts of the world where people are not frequent visitors, we rely on such information. Now, how do you think that we can, take this challenge, or we can do something better to
Sir, thank you so much for the lovely question. And this is the entire point of my presentation, that I am from Himachal Pradesh,
I can
and
know.
here I am presenting the paper on Kinnaur, sitting in Banaras.
Yeah.
So it is also an example how I am, through my ways, creating a difference. And sir, like I said, that it is important for the people from Himachal Pradesh, for the people from the different districts to showcase their culture. Although I agree with you that people who have certain followings and millions and billions, they will have more impact. But sir, recent trends have shown that the Pahari people are not back, and even in the social media platforms, they are gaining followers, and actresses like Yami Gautam, Anupam Kher, and much more people, Kriti Zinta, and if they also partake in our traditions, they showcase. And recently, even Kalna Ranaut, if we talk about, she has also been showcasing the trends of Himachal Pradesh. So if the representation is done rightly by the locals, by the Himachali people, then it will create a difference and it will reach to the point where it should reach.
All right, thank you, Riju. Moving on to the next one, we have Garima Sharma. Garima Sharma. The paper is Ramayan as a dynamic. What's it in here? Archive.
Yes, sir, yes.
Ramayan as a dynamic archive of regional versions, and actually the printer went wrong, so there's a huge black blot on the paper. So, anyways, Garima, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Garima, switch on a video, and you have almost 7 minutes at your disposal. You're welcome.
Good afternoon to both the chairs. I was trying to share my presentation, but I think not able to do that, sir.
Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. We give, we do not give actually. I must say, yes, you are putting presentation, but sometimes you technical glitches. If you are not able to present to the screen, you need to do it verbally, and we give equal weightage to that, provided we are able to understand what you're saying and get through it.
Okay, sir.
Don't worry, you start.
Leave the effort then, okay? Good afternoon to both the chairs, everyone present here. My name is Garima, I'm from Himachal Pradesh University, and my topic is Ramayana as a dynamic archive of regional versions and modern retellings. So, for starting, I would like to quote A.K. Ramanujan. He says that no single version of the Ramayana is original. Rather, every telling depends on the memory and imagination of its community. So, epic traditions plays a very crucial role in the field of literature by illustrating the rich cultural heritage of societies through quasi-historic narratives. These epics are first transmitted orally down the generations before being written or read. So, Ramayana is one of the foundational mythological epics of Indian ethos, which embodies the synthesis of cultural legends and spirituality. It was traditionally attributed to sage Valmiki, who is also known as the Adi Kavi, which means the first poet, and Valmiki is considered to be Ram's contemporary. So he is Valmiki's Ramayana, the most authoritative text till date which we have. So I will not narrate the story of Ramayana, we all know about it. So over the centuries, the sacred scripture has evolved into a living myth sustained by countless retellings across cultures and languages. Then we have Goswami Tulsidas's Ramcharitmanas, which we all know about, but it was very late written in the 16th century. It was composed in Avdi language, and it reimagines Valmiki's Sanskrit epic with a devotional angle and reconceptualizes Ram as a divine incarnation of benevolence and love. Then again we have a very famous text, the Tamil text Ramavataram, which was written in 12th century by Kambar, and it infuses the Ramayana with Dravidian aesthetics, poetic grandeur and philosophy. And there are a number of narratives around the Ramayana, a number of retellings. I would like to state a few. The Assamese Ramayana, which is called the Saptakanda Ramayana, Bengali Ramayana, which is the Kritivasi Ramayana, Buddhist Ramayana, Jhataka Tales, which has the chapter Dashrath Jhataka in it, and Jain Ramayana is called the Paumakarya Ramayana, Odia Ramayana is called the Jagamohan Ramayana, then we have the South Asian versions of the Ramayana. The Thai Ramayana is called the Ram King, Cambodian Ramayana is called Remakat, and Indonesian Ramayana is called Kakavane Ramayana. And all these versions add layers to interpret and demonstrate narrative flexibility of the Ramayana. Now, Ramayana as a mythological text epitomizes ideas of dharma, righteous kingship, while countless folk versions highlight local concerns. Meenakshi Faithful in her essay Ram as a folk hero in the Ramayans, Ramaims, Ramayans of Himachal Pradesh. This is how we locally pronounce Ramayana here. Explores how the figure of Ram transcends canonical boundaries to accrue distinct folk identity here. The hill folk rendition, Ramayana tradition in the Himalayas, Paul authenticates that Ram is recast explicitly as a folk hero in the Ramayana. His exploits narrated in the ballads, drama, songs incorporate local customs, dialects, and languages. She showcases how communities imbue Ram with traits of rugged mountain warrior, the ideal neighbor and the household hero who represents with the lived world of the Pahari people. Paul exemplifies how myth is not simply inherited, but localized and reinterpreted for the act of the myth retelling, or what we call as mythopoeia, that reshapes epic figures for contemporary media. Now, O.K. Ramanujan also observes in his essay 300 Ramayans that there is no single version of Ramayana but a marriage of tellings. Now coming on to other versions of Ramayana, drawing from Valmiki's Ramayana and enriched by the regional local traditions, authors across India have wrote versions about the story which result in a rich treasure of tales, each worthy of reverence and appreciation. Many of these texts are originally not written in book forms, but what we understand as dramatic performances and oral narrations. Goswami Tulsidas' Ramcharitmanas in northern India is a gem in the crown of Indian religious literary tradition. It was written in Awadhi language and the style was the Doha or Chopai, जिसको हम हिंदी में कहते हैं, making this a popular text among the devotees. While it's written in content and emotive verses, the work of Tulsidas went beyond the Ramayana of Valmiki in terms of prevalence, as its language was accessible to all, including the illiterate section, who then relished the epic as Ram Katha. There are so many variations in Valmiki's Ramayana and in Tulsidas' Ramayana, which we do not know, like the Lakshman Rekha. It was added much later. If you read the authentic Valmiki Ramayana, you would not find any mention of the Lakshman Rekha, or you would not find Hanuman with a Gada. Hanuman did not have Gada in Valmiki's Ramayana, but it was also a later addition. Next, moving on to Mahabharat Ramayana, written by Sant Ekant in Marathi. It is also very popular in Marathi Ramayana. And then Girdhar Ram in Gujarat. Then we have Ramcharitam, another important writing from the region. It was written by the poet Sandhyakar Nandi, patronized by the Pala ruler Ram Palla, drawing parallels legendary episodes of Ramayana. Nandi wrote a story that included both Ram and the historical king Ramapalla, creating a unique text that has religious as well as materialist and human elements well placed in narratives. So these are various versions of the Ramayana which I was telling. That Ramayana is not just limited to Hindu religion but also to Buddhism and Jainism. In Buddhism, the story of Ram is presented in the ancient and sacred Jataka tales with a text called Dashrath Jataka. It's of Buddha's previous birth as Ram Pandit, a great prince and the son of King Dashrath, who was exiled similar to the story of Valmiki. The tale goes on ending with the moral that everything in life is impermanent and detachment is the key. Then we have the Jainism, and in Jain tradition, rooted in the popular sphere in India, benefited from the retelling of the Prakrit, a language of the people. Vimal Suri, a Jain scholar, penned Pauma Karya, which is a Ramayana, one of the earliest texts of the Jain religion. In the perfection of the Jain philosophy, Ram in the Jain version was a practitioner of non-violence, which is why it was Lakshman and not Ram who slayed Ravan, according to the Jain Ramayana. So a multitude of retellings of the epics have appeared over time, and Paula Richmond's edited volume, Many Ramayans, The Diversity of Narrative Tradition in the South, establishes this epic as existed in narrated versions and as a canonical text. This book comprises of 12 essays in 3 parts, which talks about literature and folk, wherein each examines different versions of Ramayana across South Asia. The contributors emphasize that each community upholds its distinct traditions and accentuates their local versions. The retellings of Ramayana to this effect have been widely discussed and debated. Authors like Devdutt Patnaik, we have Amish Tripathi, Chitra Banerjee, Kavita Kane, Amit Majumdar, Anandini Kanthan, Ashok Bankar and others have dedicated themselves to untying the endless puzzles and enigmas surrounding mythical stories of Ramayana. These all are the contemporary authors, those who are working on the Ramayana and reimagining it for the contemporary audiences. We have Devdutt Patnaik and illustrated retellings of the Ramayana, which takes Sita's perspective. Then we have Devakati's The Forest of Enchantment, which is so feminist perspective, giving agency to Sita. She's shown as a powerful warrior, a woman who...
Alright, please conclude. Please conclude.
Alright. Then we have Amish Tripathi's Ramchandra series, where he has given equal space to Ram, Sita, Ravan, and the initial 4 books, and these 3 books converged in Gaurav Tanka. He's taken modern take on for the contemporary audience, and pleasure to read. So Ramayana is, at the end, I would like to conclude that Ramayana is not merely inherited but continually revitalized. Together, regional versions and modern adaptations reveal the epic's enduring vitality as a cultural ecosystem, one that adapts, expands, and resonates across generations, confirming its status as a living narrative archive that reflects the past and the. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Garima. I think this mic is not working properly. Thank you, Garima. I'll address you from the mic. This mic is not working properly. Hello. Garima, am I audible? Yeah, that mic was not working properly. I'm talking from the mic of the dais. Now, your paper was very nice and gave the sights to the participants over here that yes, it's not the only one Ramayana exists or we are aware of, and probably mostly we are aware of Ramcharitmanas, right? Not Ramayana. We say we are aware of Ramayana, but actually we are reading Ramcharitmanas, quoting and following it in our day-to-day lives. But if we had studied Ramayana, we would have got a different picture of actual Ramayana or the story behind it. Now, paper was fine, and I wish that all the participants here would have loved to hear from you and would have got certain insights that yes, we need to have other pursuits of Ramayana too. So, thank you for this. Any questions from the participants here?
Yeah, Garima, are you there?
Yes, Kumar Gaurav, please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Dr. Gaurav.
Yeah.
And, just like all the versions that you mentioned, could you please throw some light on why this Uttarakhand is often considered a later interpolation? And how does these inclusion or exclusions, shape modern retellings of Ramayana?
Uttarakhand is considered a later addition, so because it was not there in the Valmiki Ramayana, and Valmiki was Ram's contemporary, so that is the most authentic version of the Ramayana which we consider. Others are retellings and variations. They have influence, yet they have taken what from the Valmiki Ramayana, but still they have variations. So because Uttarakhand was written much later, drafted much later, so it is a later addition. And what followed this question? I'm sorry.
How does these inclusion or exclusion they shape modern retellings of the Ramayana?
So we need modern retellings because every stagnant thing or every stagnant myth, if it does not make sense to the contemporary audience, it eventually, I will not say die, but become archaic. So in today's times, if you give me a big book of Ramayana, probably I would not be able to read it because of the language, because it's not accessible. But yes, if you give me the Amish Tripachi's Ramayana, it has modern tweaks. I am able to relate to it. It's not archaic. So it is preserving the myth, yet it is also reimagining it. So I am able to go through it. So that is why I think reimaginings or retellings are important, so that we are able to cater to the myth, we're able to preserve it, and it does not become archaic.
All right, thank you. Dr. Kumar, are you done?
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, Garima, have you read 300 Ramayanas? There is a book called 300 Ramayanas, A.K. Ramanujan's.
It's an essay, I think.
It's an essay, sorry, yes, it's an essay. Have you read that?
Yes,
Yeah, it's already banned from this country. So if you read it, that's fine. That's fine. So I would have had there been much more time. I would have asked you that. I would have asked you if you agree banning such a very important essay which throws light on Indian culture and Indian literary tradition is probably right or not. But then, thank you. I will not ask this question or discuss that. Now, my question is, the next participant is Ibrahim Falalu Atta and Ibrahim Abdul Qadir, Department of English and Literary Studies, Faculty of Arts, Sadhu Zungur University, Gadu, Bauchi State. So is Ibrahim Falalu Atta there? Yes, Ibrahim. Yes, Ibrahim. Good evening. Here this evening. Sorry, I do not know where is this Bauchi State. Is it?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, sir. So now I am Ibrahim Kolele from Bauchi State University. That is Saad Muslim. It was named Saad Zungur University now, but before then it is Bauchi State University. But later the government changed the name to Saad Zungur University.
This is which country? This is Nigeria.
Yes, it's Nigeria.
It's Nigeria. Yes. Sorry. I was told that somebody from Nigeria is there, but I do not know it's you. So welcome, Ibrahim and Ibrahim Falalu and Ibrahim Abdul Qadir. Welcome. You have almost 7 minutes to put your paper, and then 2 minutes of question answer session. Please.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, the respected chairs. So I am Ibrahim Falalu from Saad Zungur University. My topic of discussion, or my topic of favor, is comparative literature as a vehicle of knowledge for undergraduate students and researchers. So, from the topic here, comparative literature is the study beyond the confines of one particular country and the study of the relationships between literature on one hand and other areas of knowledge and belief, such as its art, philosophy, history, and social sciences, the science. In brief, it is the comparison of one literature with another or others, and the comparison of literature with the other spheres of human expressions. So comparative literature juxtaposes literary text from different languages and culture, and it connects, say, a poem with dance, a film with the novel, photography with the essay. So comparative literature means the knowledge of more than one national language and literature, or it means the knowledge and application of other disciplines in and for the study of literature. Also, comparative literature has an ideology of inclusion, the other material literature. So there are a huge of literature that I apply in this paper. Number one is in 1993, Claude Orient distinguished 3 multinational cases for literary comparison. This includes influence, social history, conditions, and critical methodology. Of course, some critical methodology stands necessary to the observation of those similarities and differences, which may then be explained in terms of social history or influence. So the theoretical frameworks that suit the paper is new historicism, use literature as part of history, and furthermore as an expressions or forces on history. And this new historicism compares literary analysis, dynamic, cycle, whereby the work tells us something about the surrounding ideology, include slavery, rights of women, and etc. And a study of the ideology tells us something about the work. New historicism takes 2 forms. Namely, we have analysis of the work in the context in which it was created, and of the analysis of the work in the context in which it was created and evaluated. So historicism claims that readers are influenced by their culture, hence no objective reading of the work is possible. And adherents of new criticism are of the opinions that critics should consider how their own culture affects their interpretation of the treaty or influence on the work. So there are many theories of comparative literature. First, I will discuss one because of the time. Comparative literature, a basic feature of French school history fragile and positivistic approach. They believe that in the story of comparative literature, the important criticism and also to center on the history of international literary relations. Many theologians of this similar of this assertion. So we have in terms of influence of study. Number one, the study of direct borrowing. Examples of, for instance, we have Shakespeare, he borrowed from what? From Platonic work. And number two, we have study of the influence of a group of writers from diverse cultures and ages. This influence we have Donne and we have T.S. Eliot. And the finding of this paper, number one, this study finds that literature serves as a vehicle for comparing or bringing knowledge, ideas, important traits, the ethics of a nation, community, or group of people. Moreover, get the structure, know the various culture, norm and belief of a particular to their literary materials. Literature could be the model ways of perceiving this. To conclude my paper, the work concludes that comparative literature as a discipline provide students and such vast knowledge through the confounding of different works of literature. It impedes by in crucial roles played by different forms of comparative literature using their unique views and approaches. So we came to know the relationship and differences between literary works, not only but across national borders, across time periods, across languages, across genres, and boundaries in literature and other arts, and across other disciplines. Thank you very much. This is the end of the paper.
Thank you. Thank you, Abraham. And you discussed the basics behind or the thematic understanding behind the comparative literature. Now, we sometimes do come across various literature from one region and from the other region, and we do a comparative study or talk about it. I have one very common question, or maybe I want your insight on that particular question, and that is that when we do a comparative study of our literature, for example, I have some writing in India, and I am taking some writing from Nigeria. Suppose you are writing something, I am writing something. There is one more scholar sitting beside me. That person is reading your literature and reading my literature. That person is from a different region or different place, or maybe from your region or maybe from my region. Now, do you consider that this is going to impact that literary understanding, or maybe the cultural understanding, or maybe the epistemological understanding, or what all sorts of things, the knowledge generation, the theme behind it, or is the third person able to connect that deeply as you are doing it or I am doing it for my particular text? Because being a third person, that person is able to get that particular understanding only to the limit of his or her understanding, not what you are saying, not what you have put in your, suppose you are writing a poem, not what you have put in the poem. So that challenge will always be there because of the cultural differences, because of the regional differences. So what do you think on this particular aspect?
So, sir, because based on these questions, I would like to say that because based on this topic, comparative, so the reason why I brought this topic because of these issues. Because one cannot understand the culture and norms of a particular region or community or nation without in there. So by the aid or by the help of the literature, you can understand what culture and what norms of a particular nation or country. So if a person reading a literature of a particular nation, and that person another one in another country, in another nation. So you as a mediator, you have the chance to understand the norms and culture of a particular country and to know the other norms and culture of particular issues. For example, we have two novels in India. Number one, Sarito by Rupa Bajwa, and we have the other one, White Tiger by Ragin Adiga. Those two novels are very important novels. And it is an epistome to India because they showcase what is happening in India. For example, Sarisho. I read Sarisho and I see how, I read how Rupa Bajwa showcased the problems or demonstrations of females in India. They show how the culture of India, they show the outfit of India, how the difference between the poor and the middle class and the upper class. The middle class, their one orbit is different from the lower class and it's different from the middle class. And the other one, Arabic Hadinga, White Tiger, he showcased what the problems of India. Number one, the problems of lower classes and the issues of higher classes and the issues of middle classes. And they showcase the cultures of India. And in other parts in Nigeria, we have achievers and we have also India. Children's achievers just fall apart, showcase the tradition, showcase the cultures of southern Nigeria. You see, the main character of King Solomon you see over here how he practiced the custom, the culture of that community. So, a person as a mediator will understand that, or will hear or will read that the culture of the country. And you have the opportunity to see that by reading something, a text, or in a written form, definitely you will understand the issues of the other cultures, the programs and the advantage of the other cultures, and the advantage of the other cultures. I don't know whether I answered your question.
No, yes, you have answered, you have answered very well, giving very detailed understanding of both the cultures. So that is what we say is depends on subjectivity of the particular person, and therefore there could be very pertinent differences in understanding of both the cultures. Anyways, thank you, Ibrahim. And now we have concluded 11 participants, out of which 2 were absent. Those whose name have been called repeatedly were Harsh Rana and the one scholar at point number 7, serial point number 7, community-based experiential learning for sustainability, study of indigenous knowledge, environmental practice in Jammu and Kashmir. So these 2 remain absent. Out of 11, 9 were present. Thank you for this session, and we are very delighted and happy to have you. And probably in the next year, we'll again have you all in this conference. You becoming part of this conference, and I don't know whether we shall be sharing a session in the next one, but certainly being a part of the university, we'll be there, and we'll be very delighted to have you too. Thank you for all the fantastic papers here. We'll be judging the papers, and some of the people, when you'll be submitting the papers, we shall be published also if things permit, and have a fantastic session again, maybe probably next year by the same month or maybe 1 month ahead or later. So thank you for this enriching session. Thank you for the knowledge you shared. Thank you for the hard work you did, and for the patience you maintained. Thank you, I say thank you to the organizers here, if they are listening. Thank you, sir. Thank you, the foundation, the chairman sir from the Himachal Pradesh University, from the foundation. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. So we shall be switching off now. Bye bye and take care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Can't
सर रिजल्ट अभी अनाउंस करना है, ऐसा नहीं ना?
नहीं रिजल्ट कल वैलिडिटी
Shall we begin this session, Dr. Gaurav?
Number one, good evening, and Dr. Kumar Gaurav, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. Namaste, ma'am. Namaste.
So, so I think your session starts, so you can proceed in between. They are compiling the results, so you can start your session.
Okay. I think.
Yeah, all the presenters ready? Are all the presenters logged in? Dr. Prasanta, Dr. Sunena,
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Pinky, Nikhil, Dr. Rajiv Kumar, Dr. Manjeet Kaur, Saisha Verma, Arjit Kaur, Dr. Satyaprakash Yadav, and Akanksha Jaiswal. We have 11 presenters in this particular session, so I don't think there's any moderator. Dr. Gaurav, is there any?
No one. We have to have it.
So, we are already lagging behind.
Yes.
It was supposed to be an afternoon session that was supposed to be so let's call it an evening session now. And before we begin, let me tell you that we will not be able to afford more than 7 to 8 minutes. Kindly finish up your presentations in 7 to 8 minutes. Maybe 7 minutes and 1 minute for the question and answer session. Right, sir?
Yes.
Okay, and yes, so let's begin with the very first presenter. Kindly introduce yourself and your presentation, Dr. Prasanna. Yes, you're.
Yes, I'm working in a college under Calcutta University, and I'm representing many universities, and I'll just present my paper with a PPT. So just spare me a few seconds. Is it visible?
उनको सुनना है, आपको नहीं सुनना। हाँ, अब आप आपको सुनना
Not
है।
as yet, not as yet. Kindly share your screen, Dr. Prasanna.
Not one. I'm actually logging in from another window because it's.
See if you can fix it in 10 to 15 seconds, otherwise you can proceed with your oral presentation. I'm actually logging in from another one.
If you want
उधर बैठो
Yes.
Before you start, may I request all others to kindly mute yourself.
Okay, so starting with the question, ma'am. My paper is called Gender Surveillance and Disability Feminine, Patriarchal Panopticism, Bengali Renaissance Reformism, and Female Subjectivity in Satyajit Ray's Cinematic Discourse. To introduce my paper is talking about Satyajit Ray's cinema, and that exposes the dense network of surveillance shaping Bengali womanhood during the Bengali Renaissance. Now, drawing on Foucault's panopticism, Mulvey's male gaze, and Barthes' gender disciplinary practices, this particular paper, in this one, I am arguing how Satyajit Ray, the eminent Bengali and international Oscar-winning filmmaker, is showing his heroines who are inhabiting in a visual and ideological regime where every gesture is watched, interpreted, or corrected. Now, here I am saying that in this particular one, what we see is that the particular panopticism, which is a concept that was coming from Jeremy Bentham's concept of prison and later on developed and enhanced by Michel Foucault, here we see that particular panopticism in what I term palimpsestic panopticism, that captures how these multiple gazes accumulate rather than replace one another. Now, for this, I am talking about Foucault's idea that demonstrates that modern power operates through invisibilized observation. It operates through kind of creating subjects who self-regulate even in the absence of direct authority. The women in colonial Bengal internalized this particular gaze through the norms of domesticity, norms of respectability, and cultural virtue. Now, visibility kind of became a disciplinary mechanism. To be seen was to be judged. And Barthes shows this one how femininity extends this mechanism, disciplining the women into bodily docility and emotional restraint. Now, Barthes' notion that modern femininity is produced through micro practices such as postures, voice, modesty, and various sort of control movements that help us reach Satyajit Ray's female characters as bodies trained in aesthetic self-regulation. Now, the Renaissance era women, the Bengal Renaissance era women, had to embody the refinement without the agency. They had to be the proper women, the perfect performers in the domestic space. Now, reformers such as Ram Mohan Roy, Vidyasagar, Rabindranath Tagore, they all advocated education and social rights for women, yet the reformist discourse that simultaneously deepened scrutiny. These quote-unquote new women, they were expected to display modern learning while embodying a sort of a timeless purity. They always had to play the role of being pure women. That was kind of an impossible double demand. Parthu Chatterjee argues in his book that the home became the sanctified space of cultural authenticity, making the women its guardian. Thus, the reform did not displace the patriarchy, but rather repackaged it. Now, this is where comes the idea of palimpsestic panopticism. It describes how surveillance accumulates across historical layers, the traditional patriarchal gaze, the colonial civilizing gaze, the nationalist gaze, the reformist gaze, all these finally bring up as an accumulated form in Satyajit Ray's cinematic gaze. Each layer somewhere overrides, but never actually erases the previous one. Now the women become kind of multi-inscribed subject whose agency is constantly negotiated between these intersecting forces. Satyajit Ray cinema makes these layers very much visible, showing how even tenderness, education, devotion, and all of these become tools of regulation. Now, Satyajit Ray's films serve as kind of visual laboratories for observing gender surveillance. His camera frequently mimics and also criticizes the act of looking. He uses the windows, door frames, mirrors, and all these, which are part of the domestic world. They become kind of metaphors for surveillance. Satyajit Ray exposes how women's interiority is shaped by the domestic confinement, social expectation, male interpretation. I have taken 3 movies, Charulata, I have the 3 women characters, Charulata, Dayamoi and Bimola. Now, Charulata is one movie, Devi is another movie, and Ghore Baile or the Bhogan is another. In these three, we see the first one, Charulata. There we see Charulata at the very beginning, opening sequence. Charulata somewhere is using her binocular to see the world outside. That is where we see Charulata has kind of a desire to see and also posit herself in a space where she is constantly seeing. So her emotional and intellectual life is framed by the gazes of 2 male characters. One is Bhupati, another is Amal, who inadvertently turn her creativity into kind of an arena of observation. Now, Satyajit Ray's camera lingers on her movements, her embroidery, her reading practices, her writing, her handwriting even. All those show how domestic labor and the cultured leisure, they become performances of active government under surveillance. Now, there is an emotional awakening that we find that where we see the iconic swing sequence that captures Charu's fleeting liberation. Yet, the slow motion, prolonged close-ups, all these aestheticize her freedom into a spectacle. Laura Mulvey's male gaze becomes very relevant in this context. Charu's joyous abandon is kind of mediated through the male spectatorship. And that is where we find that the scene subtly critiques the impossibility of unobserved communication. Anyway, coming to the next one, we find that Devi. There we see that Dayamoi is the protagonist who is transforming into a goddess. This particular transformation dissolves her humanity, turning her into an object of absolute continuous gaze. Now, her divine pedestal erases her voice. We see it to be kind of an elevation. We see it to be kind of an emancipation. But it's not that. It is where we see that she is kind of losing her voice, her agency. And that is what fulfills Barclay's observation that idealization can be more oppressive force than punishment. And that is what used to happen during the Bengal liberation movement. There is a practice called Kumari Puja, where Ma Durga, or where a little child is idolized as a god in Bengal. Now that is kind of told to be a blessing from God. But going to the space of that particular girl, we see it is kind of ostracizing her voice. Now, Satyajit Ray frames Dayamoi using the symmetrical frontal shots that record the devotional paintings. This iconographic style highlights how women are frozen into aesthetic and ideological images. Now, the stillness of the compositions mirrors the stillness imposed on Dayamoi. And she cannot move, she cannot choose, she cannot speak. She is absolutely there without violating the sanctity that is projected on her. So that is where the surveillance on her becomes totalitarian, inescapable, and to a large extent, by the divinization, it was dehumanizing. Now, in Ghore Baile, or Whom in the World, another character is there who is called Bimola. Bimola is someone stuck between her husband, that is Nikhilesh, who is very much enlightened with the European philosophy, and Shondip, who is kind of a pseudo-nationalist. Here we see that Shondip's revolutionary rhetoric kind of eroticizes the Bharat Mata, while Bimola becomes its allegorical embodiment. On the other hand, her husband Nikhilesh's liberalism still carries the paternalistic undertones. Thus, nationalism does not liberate Bimola, rather it confines her. Satyajit Ray shows that the very title, Whom and the World, in Bengali is called Ghore Baile. Now, there is a threshold between Ghor, that is Ghar, the room, and Baile, that is the world outside. The threshold, crossing the threshold, it costs a lot for Bimola. Now, Satyajit, in this way, we find that there is a failure of the reformist promises. Satyajit Ray's women demonstrate that reform without structural transformation intensifies rather than alleviates surveillance. Charulata's education isolates her, Doramoy's deification or sanctification destroys her agency, Bimalan's politicization becomes a manipulation. Thus, these all narratives reveal what Foucault suggests: power is flexible and resilient. It configures itself through institutions that appear emancipatory. Satyajit Ray shows that liberation itself can become